every year I get the God Week prompt and I think, are they ever going to send us an easy one? And a lot of years I just ignore the prompt and I just give the God Week witness that I want to give. That's getting harder to do the longer I teach. I think I'm expected to do what I'm expected to do. So I'm going to answer this prompt, but I'm going to kind of walk around to it. The question they ask us is that we can only know Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit in the roles the Holy Spirit plays in the lives of Christians. In which role has the Holy Spirit shown up in your life as counselor, encourager, helper, advocate, convictor, healer, consoler, teacher, or reminder? Now, implied in that question is that the Holy Spirit will get us in the ways that we need. I'm often reminded that the Holy Spirit shows up where He is known, welcomed, and expected. Remember those words, known, welcome, and expected. They'll pay benefits in your spiritual life for a long time. Well, I don't usually talk about this because I'm not always sure how people will take it when I say it. But God talks to me. I know His voice. It's clear and it's resonant. There's like a fullness to it and almost an echo and a vibrato in it. You know what it reminds me of? If you've ever read, there's this children's book, You Are Special, and it's about these little wooden people named Wemmicks, and one of them, kind of the main character, Punchinello, his life's having hard times, and so he goes to the wood carver, he goes to the maker, and then the maker will start to put his life back together. It's a allegory for turning to God in the hard times. And the sound that Eli, the wood carver, makes, the sound of his voice, is the sound that I imagine, well, it's God's voice. And it comes to me confidently and reassuringly. And He uses that voice to tell me things even when I'm not really sure that I'm ready to hear the thing that I'm being told. It comes to me when I ask Him and when I make room to listen to Him. More often than not, I talk to Him in the chapel at school. I'll go, usually during my planning period or sometimes after school, and once or twice I've gone down in the middle of class, like students are working on a thing, and I'll say, hey, go to another teacher, hey, can you cover my class for a minute? I got to run down the hall. And I'll run down and go try to spend a couple minutes in chapel. I haven't done that very much, but I have done it. I can only hear God's voice when I set aside all of the distractions. I absolutely must stop thinking about my emails or, the social media or just keeping up with stuff. I have to set all of that aside and tune my ear to listen to God. And I haven't always been able to hear Him. I don't know, I probably worked on it a decade, I think, before I could get to the point where I could hear what He was telling me. Before I did learn, you go kneel down in the chapel, and it's like, okay, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Hi, God, it's me. Of course, it's me. Hello. You know everything. And, of course, you knew that I would start this prayer that way. And, God, Walter, get to the point. It's He's waiting. He doesn't have eternity for me to get to the prayer. I guess, actually, He does have eternity. I don't have eternity. So now I'm rushing. I'm trying to rush God along. And it's And then 5 minutes later, the prayer was falling apart, and it's and this is crazy, but here's my number, and call me back. It's a deeply unfulfilling prayer life. In the first book of Kings, the prophet Elijah had gone to a cave on Mount Horeb. Now, the author of the first book of Kings, it's probably Jeremiah. Anyway, the author just assumes we're going to know where Mount Horeb is forever. It's actually one of those things that's sort of lost to antiquity. Biblical historians think that it's probably on the Sinai Peninsula, that little triangle of land between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. There's the Red Sea and the little triangle. Anyway, probably on the Sinai Peninsula is Mount Horeb, but we're not exactly sure. Nevertheless, Elijah went there to go flee from the other Israelites who were trying to kill him. Now, they're trying to kill him for some fascinating reasons. You should read it yourself. The books of Kings, of the history books of the Old Testament, they're very readable. Pick them up and read them. But God had sent word to Elijah through a messenger to call Elijah out of the cave where he was hiding, and that the prophet was supposed to stand before the Lord when he arrived. Okay, so here's what it reads. Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by. And a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke the pieces into rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake was a fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Elijah, he gets it. God doesn't talk to me in the tornadoes and the hurricanes. He absolutely does not shout with the earthquakes and the fires. When those moments come, and they come, it's God in his permissive or his active will that will rend our world apart. But when I need to hear him, he doesn't speak to me in the destruction of tornadoes or earthquakes or the fires or whatever. No, if I want to hear God, I have to make myself small and quiet and still. I have to take him my question and listen enough to hear him. And then he'll speak directly and clearly. I know his voice, if only I shut up long enough to let him talk. Now, more often than not, I ask him about my job. I ask him about what to do about a coworker or a student or an administrator, or somebody that I've picked a fight with. For insight on a tough lesson, or for an idea about a class that isn't going well. Usually it's some kind of an interpersonal problem, some kind of mess I've made for myself. That's my specialty. It's what I do better than anybody. Sometimes I come to him with a question about my family. I think every spouse and parent knows what it's like to fail in their vocation from time to time. And I don't always know to whom else I should turn. But God, he never fails. He knows. I mean, yes, he knows everything. He's omniscient. He has, the entirety of knowledge. But it's like he knows. And I don't know why I don't turn to him more often. Except that I do know. And it's pride. Pride is my favorite sin. It's my old reliable, the one I go back to the most. You know what I mean? So this question, how does the Holy Spirit show up in my life? Well, he is all of them. He is the helper and the advocate and the healer, and he is it all. But counselor, wise counsel, that's it. I mean, he knows. So, get quiet. In the tornadoes and the earthquakes and the Zoom classrooms of life, make time to be still and be quiet. God's voice is not in the wind, it's not in the fire, it's in the stillness. And his Spirit will fill you if you turn your ear to listen. If you want to talk more about this, shoot me an email. We'll meet in Thunderblock. I've got a lot more I can say, but we're going to leave it here for now. God bless you. Now, go in peace, glorifying the Lord with your life.